Good evening, everybody. I hope you're all safe and well at home with your families. And if you could join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
to the
to the
republic
republic,
for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to start with the superintendent's report. So we have COVID-19 update, distance learning update. So that's you, Dr. Massera.
that is me, yes. Once again, I want to thank the community for their level of support. We really had one of our most heartwarming events last Friday when we ran our Caravan of Caring. It was truly just a remarkable event, and it was something that really touched, I think, everybody in the community. Because, you know, we did this as a way for teachers and staff and administration to touch base with the families and the kids in the community. But surprisingly, it was so much more than that, because we saw, you know, elderly people, we saw grandparents, we saw just community members along the route. It was 23 miles roughly. We did it in about 2.5 hours, and it was just extraordinary. The level of turnout, the signs, the smiles on the kids' faces, literally, everything from laughing to tears to just a wealth of emotions. And it was just, I think, an extraordinary experience for everybody to go through and be able to connect at a time when it's been so difficult to have that human connection. So thank you to all of the teachers and the staff and all the parents and kids and community members that came out to support us on that, because it was a feel-good moment for all of us. We're continuing our distance learning. We're obviously, we're several weeks in now, and we're feeling like we are making, we're just getting better at it every day. It's something that has been a tremendous shift for us, but something that we believe we are really doing a great job in terms of trying to make that connection. One of the biggest things we wanted was a connection with every student in the district. And we set that as a goal early on, that we wanted to make sure that every single kid was touched, and we reached out, and anybody that we didn't reach out to, we would make sure that we were able to, that's my dogs in the background, sorry. But we would make sure that we would use whatever resources possible to make sure that we reached out to everyone. So we are at about 98, 99%. I think my understanding is in Clayton Huey, there are probably about 3 or 4 families that we are still using our resources to connect with. A couple in the middle school and a couple in the high school. Different reasons for disengagement, but we are committed to making sure that we reach out to every single child. That's going to come in a couple different phases. The first phase is just that, the connection piece. And then the second phase is the engagement level, because it's one, the first thing we're worried about is the social emotional well-being of our kids. And then after that, during a crisis like this, and in my last, I think, video message, I talked about how upwards of 50% of adolescents face issues with anxiety. And so we're committed to making sure that, in a pandemic like this, that stuff doesn't go away. It only exacerbates those kinds of things. So what we want to do is make sure that we are connecting. And I think that one of the things I'm really, really proud of is the work our guidance department is doing. And I want to emphasize that and thank them for Linda Greening and the entire guidance department for putting together all of the resources they did. We have over 200 kids signed up for support through the guidance department for one-to-one counseling sessions to talk about those things that are going on and to help them get through some of the issues. In a little while, I'm going to ask Raina Ingoglia to talk a little bit more about some of those initiatives and some of the things we're doing from in terms of the teachers and special areas with regard to curriculum. But there's just such good stuff taking place that we're attempting to do we want to hear from the community. If there's more we can be doing, we want the community to know that we're here to support families. We're here to support kids. That's the mission of our school, is to make sure that they're supported, that they're feeling loved, that that they can learn in a safe environment. And when the world turns upside down, that environment looks very, very different. But we're trying to recreate everything we can to support them. Daily, our administrative team meets. We have a 9 a.m. leadership team meeting. That's a standing meeting where we talk about all of the things that, from the highest levels, philosophically, what do we hope to accomplish, down into the nitty gritty. Okay, what's our messaging? How are we talking to our teachers? What are our teachers doing? And then once a week, we're meeting with the teacher leadership as well, with the Santa Moriches Teachers Association. As I continue to say, from the very start, they've been extraordinary. They've worked as partners with us, and we are beholden to them for a lot of the great things that are happening in our district. So we meet with that faculty council every Monday morning at 9:30, and we have great conversation about where we're headed as a district, how we're getting through this, how we can count on each other. And then they take that message back to their teachers, and our administrators take them back, holding daily faculty meetings with, small groups of teachers by grade level, by department, and lots of great conversation and support so that everybody can get better at what we're doing it on a daily basis. The fourth quarter, we got through that idea of the third quarter and the second trimester. And our goal for the fourth quarter is to maintain and enhance and strengthen those connections with kids, and then step up some of the things we're doing to support them academically. We have, we know we need to think outside the box in terms of grading. And so we're looking at grading very differently. We're not looking at grading as a way that kids could be punished because of inequitable access or anything like that. What we're looking at is trying to maintain a way to say that, hey, there's engagement, anything from kids who are completely avoiding the school and avoiding the task, all the way up to kids who are fully engaged, completing every assignment that's given to them. And we're working more towards a formative evaluation and providing feedback to kids so that they can learn better, as opposed to gotcha, you need to log in. I could tell you I have a 10th grader that needed to log in at a very specific time and take a time test for a half hour. Well, she missed the window, and just because it was new to her, and the teacher was able to make it up to her. But those kinds of pressures are tough for kids. My daughter was panicked when she learned she missed it, and we want to remove those barriers, and that's one of the reasons we talk about this asynchronous model, where teachers can create videos and supports for kids, but not necessarily force them to say to the entire structure of a regular school day. So we're working on a lot of that outside the box kind of thinking. My message was very simply that, we have to do some outside of the box thinking, because we're working in a very different box these days. And that's just what our school is a whole new reinvented way of teaching and learning. Some of the other things we're working on are putting out some parent tutorials. I know Mr. Nofi was great about, a tutorial on just simply how to access Wi-Fi using a device. If you're out there and you're a parent or you're a student and you need help, that's what we're here for. We want to create those kinds of, we want to make it as user-friendly as possible. So we want to be able to put those things up. And I thank all those people that are out there doing those great things. We've also done some teacher surveys. So, and what we're trying to do is trying to find out, well, how's it going? So teachers are reaching out to kids. And I could say that in our 8th grade, about 75% of the kids described the level of learning, the level of engagement as just about right. So, basically 75% of those kids are saying we're hitting the sweet spot of what we should be doing in terms of providing the kind of coursework that they can manage without being overly stressed, but being able to learn at a pace that's appropriate for them. So we feel pretty good about those kinds of things. There's a lot of great things. After I give Rain Angoli and Ricardo Soto a chance to talk about some of these things, happy to take some questions from parents or anybody out there. But right now, I'm going to toss it over to Raina, who could talk about some of the specific things our teachers are doing, maybe some of the PD stuff that we're, partnered with Stony Brook, and some of the great coursework that they're taking to just improve the kind of instruction that they're delivering, and some of the curriculum initiatives we have going. And once Raina is done, she's going to toss it over to Ricardo, and Ricardo Soto is going to talk a little bit about our services for students with special needs. Again, really, this is a top priority for us, thinking outside the box, making sure that our kids who have different and special needs are being serviced as best we can. But at the same time, we need to do business, and we need to have committee on special education meetings, and that looks very different. So give Ricardo an opportunity to talk about some of the creative ways we've reached out to parents and been able to connect. So Raina, if you don't mind, maybe you could take it from here.
Sure. Thank you, Ron. And thank you everyone for being here tonight. I don't know if you can tell, but I usually don't wear t-shirts to board meetings, but this is the Clayton Huey Kindness t-shirt that was given to me by our colleague, Kim Hardwick. And Kim was on my mind a lot today. And I thought a lot about the message and her message of kindness, compassion, and humanity. And we should live our daily lives with those attributes and qualities. And I think in education, we really try to the best of our ability. But it's those qualities that continue to motivate our teachers during this challenging time. It's those qualities that are going to see us, that we have to lean on during these challenging times. And I know that this community, based on the things that Ron has mentioned and the Caravan of Caring, especially like this community truly believes in those and embodies those qualities. So that being said, I do want to thank all of you for all of your continued support. Thank our teachers and our staff members and our entire school community. To add to the elements of the counseling center, we have had a number of very specific programs for students who need to connect. Sometimes it's just a check-in. Those individual counseling meetings vary from a check-in, students who have very specific college questions that need to be answered in a timely manner. One topic covered is, well, I got into these few schools, which one am I going to choose? I mean, that would typically be like a normal drop into guidance and a quick conversation with the counselor. So now the drop-in is provided by these virtual meetings with counselors. And some of them also, last week, guidance pushed out more scholarship reminders, which would typically happen this time of year, especially for our local scholarships. So we're sending out more reminders virtually. So we know those opportunities still exist. And right now for our seniors, our counselors are working on getting kids to apply for scholarships. Also, since we can't attend most college campuses across the country are closed, and this is a time when students, in sophomore and juniors are going on college visits. And we would probably have still some planned field trips, college visits. So Ms. Marino is going to push this out within the next few days. There's going to be a virtual college tour with 300 plus colleges and universities. Just so kids know that we are moving forward, with their future plans. And that guidance is really the core of all of that discussion and the discussion of their academics. So there are a number of different resources on the site, on the Guidance Center site, and they are being updated regularly. So if you have needs, please go there. And if you need, something immediate, send a counselor an email, send one of us an email, so we can get you the support that you need. Because that really is the hub of the school, and it's even in this platform, it's still the hub of the school. As far as the classroom, there are many highlights going on right now. Our teachers are fully immersed in the Google platform. Some of them are, using every aspect and many aspects of the platform. Kids are responding really well to meets. They like the interaction. They like the opportunity to be able to speak with their teachers. Some of our teachers have implemented things like Google Drawings, just so the kids can leave positive messages to one another and be connected in that way. There are live video chats, teachers in science. I'm getting email updates from every grade level by the minute in terms of what's going on in the classroom. And some of the things are things that we've used before. You know, science is relying heavily on virtual field trips. So the kids can have experiences that, that exist out there in the world, they just can't see them live. Other interactive tools that we're using Flipgrid, Screencastify. It's more of a live interactive presentation model using those tools. In the content area, our teachers have used things like Code Combat, Delta Math, Castle Learning. Even though we've used Castle Learning for many years, with this shift to virtual learning, they've increased their apps and resources. So even some of the things that we've used for many years, those vendors have stepped up their, you know, their accessibility, and they've stepped up what they're offering to schools. And many of them are doing it, at least for temporary, at no cost. You know, the special areas, many interesting conversations I've had with teachers there, because, you know, our special areas are so hands-on oriented. When you think about something like woodshop, you know, how do you run woodshop from, you know, a computer? So our teachers are, you know, our middle school, high school tech teacher is basically taking orders about what projects they're doing. He's chopping up wood and delivering it to them. I don't know how more immersed you can get in individualized instruction. Our music teachers are, you know, listening to recordings of their students so they can provide them feedback. They are working on putting together some kind of musical montage so the students can hear each other and celebrate their accomplishments in the area of music. In business technology, we have a combat code program happening, and in art and technology as well. We are basically trying to make sure that the kids have the supplies that they need. So we're organizing some supply drop-offs and pickups for art supplies as well. And we have so many specific things. You know, Miss Mangonia put out something about Pi Day. We usually have a big Pi Day event. And so she sent out something to have the kids record each other pieing virtually. You know, how do you celebrate a quarantine Pi Day? And in the area of science research, you know, we had some projects that were ready to be entered to contests, and those contests are no longer happening. So, but the good news is they are able to submit their work virtually. So hopefully we will, you know, be able to follow through. Our students can still follow through on the things that they were working for in those areas. And, you know, some teachers are using 1 or 2 apps. Some teachers are using 5 apps. You know, we've cautioned them about not getting overly complicated, but, you know, exploring at their own comfort level. You know, which apps are the right ones for subject areas, and that's ongoing. And many of our teachers have taken advantage of the Stony Brook PD that Dr. Massara mentioned earlier, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback. Many of our teachers are moving forward with their Google skills. You know, you have the basic Google, you know, mechanisms of the classroom, and there are advanced things that you can do with Google. So they're attending webinars. I think that's how we keep things interesting for the teachers, and in turn interesting for the kids, engaging for the kids. And the kids are, you know, the feedback that we're getting is very positive. You know, it's definitely a learning curve for everybody still, but everyone is on that. They're moving forward. There is an upward momentum. And, you know, we are really relying on the feedback from the kids through the teachers, and the teachers, the contact with the teachers, you know, is what I think is really keeping kids connected. You know, having those office hours, being able to see their teacher, even if it is a video, having those office hours, I think are keeping everyone's spirits up, and we're keeping the educational process moving, but in a really very important and balanced way. Even just today, you know, not wanting to push too hard, you know, I sent out, Teachers College just released some PD webinars, and because I want to keep the initiatives we're working on during the school year moving forward to a degree possible. So that growth continues. So our teachers can experience it and so our students can experience it. So, so much more to come. I just wanted to give you a few of the highlights, and I will turn it over to Mr. Soto, who's going to speak about special ed. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Raina, for that update. I just wanted to give the community an update regarding special education in terms of what we're doing for students with disabilities. And one of the things I think that everyone is aware of is that despite the fact that we are experiencing extended closure, we still need to conduct annual review meetings. And unfortunately, this epidemic hit us at the peak of annual review season. So on March 16th and 17th, I got together with all the chair people in the district, and we looked at two of the more popular teleconferencing formats that are generally used by districts and by committees at this particular time, and it was Zoom and Google Meet. After a couple of days of going back and forth and looking at the two platforms, as a committee, we decided to utilize Google Meet. As a result of that, I did communicate our intent to the community, to every parent that has a student that has a disability, that is a classified student, and or student that may be identified as a 504 student. So that is the platform that we are using. I believe that it is going pretty well. March 30th was the first day that we actually had our first virtual CSE meetings. And for the most part, the feedback that I've been receiving and that I've experienced myself in chairing meetings have been pretty positive. There are some natural difficulties associated with the use of technology, such as connectivity. Just to give everyone an example, earlier this evening, we began our meeting. I was in my basement. Now I'm in my dining room because I had difficulties with connectivity. I was too far away from my router, so I had to move my computer closer to my router, and now I have better connectivity. So those are some of the issues that are happening with some of the CSE meetings that we're having. There's also the issue of device difficulties, meaning if you're working off an old device that doesn't have the latest features, you may have some difficulties with that. We are apprising all of our parents and committee members of what we define as teleconferencing etiquette, meaning, as you may notice, everyone now has their mic on mute, and that just helps with the audio sound. So that's something that we're doing at the beginning of every meeting. And the other piece is that some people don't necessarily feel comfortable using this form of technology to engage in what normally would be a face-to-face, pretty personal meeting. So some have chosen to take the video off while engaging in the conversation. Some have decided to call in, and one of the good features of Google Meet and or Zoom is the fact that you don't necessarily have to have your video on. You can participate in the meeting without the video. You could call into the meeting, so we've had that as well. But for the most part, we try to stick to our schedule that we identified at the sort of mid-section of the year, where we create our CSE schedule. I actually created myself. I did it back in January. So we're trying to, the best of our ability, keep to that schedule. And I'm happy to announce that I believe that we will have all of our CSE and 504 meetings concluded by the end of June. That's our plan. Now, in terms of related services, this has sort of impacted the entire field quite significantly, because we're not accustomed to providing what is described as telepracticing. So what we did on March 30th which was the first day back from our spring break, I got together with all the related services providers in the district, as well as the individuals that we contract with outside of the district, which is Complete Rehab, and we discussed our first step, which would be communication to all parents and all guardians to establish what would be the preferred methodology that will be used as we continue our related services program. One of the things that the state has provided pretty significant guidance on is that districts should work creatively and in collaboration with parents and guardians to find what is the preferred methodology to continue related services. What I mean by that is traditionally we have face-to-face communication, face-to-face related service providers working directly with students or groups of students. That's no longer possible at this particular time. So some of the methodologies that can be employed is teleconferencing, such as a Google Meet, such as a Zoom, such as a Microsoft Team. There are phone conferences that you can engage in as well, or other means of continuing those services. But that has to be discussed and agreed upon with the parents. So on March 30th, the beginning of that particular week, all the related services providers reached out to every parent within their caseload to establish that. The next thing that we did by April 1st, by Wednesday of that particular week, I asked every related service provider in the district to provide me with a Google Sheet. I developed a template that identified the student, the grade, and the preferred methodology that was agreed upon with the parent. That Google Sheet was shared with me. I now have a master sheet of what we're doing with every student that receives any form of services throughout the district. That defines what we're doing with every child in the area of counseling, speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and any other related services that we provide. Now, in addition to that, what the providers do for me on a weekly basis is that they provide me with an attendance sheet that provides me with a breakdown of all the services that were rendered for that particular week, the frequency and duration of services, and the agreed upon methodology. So it has been a very sort of interesting process as we've transitioned from a direct instructional model to what we describe as a telepracticing model. But for the most part, I've been hearing very positive feedback. We are continuously looking at it to make modifications and to address any concerns or questions that parents may have. But for the most part, from what I'm hearing is that we are providing the needs of our students to the best of our ability. Juan, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, just had to unmute myself. All right, now thank you, Ricardo. George, did you want to see if there were any questions, go a little bit out of order and see if anybody from the community wanted to ask questions or? You're muted though, George. So, can we unmute George?
Yeah.
George.
Well,
I did it.
Yeah, okay.
Did you want to do that, George?
I think he said yes.
Yes. All right. So if there are any questions regarding,
Can you hear me now, Ron?
I can, yeah.
Sorry about that. It kept telling me the host needed to unmute me.
It's
Right.
done.
Yep, thank you, Bill. So yeah, I think it's definitely a good time to go ahead and let the community comment or ask questions. And we'll use the hand raising feature again.
Yes. If someone wants to ask a question, they just have to click on and raise their hand in the chat window on the side.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Any questions?
Nobody? Bill?
So hearing, if there are none, then
I don't see anybody raising. Nope.
the next part of our presentation is actually our budget presentation. So I would turn that over to Ms. Laughlin, who will talk about, we're in this unique predicament because budget timelines were extended. We've been advised by the school business officials, the network of school business officials, not to adopt the budget prior to April 30th because the governor is looking at the trends, that looking at least a $10 billion shortfall. So we know that the numbers were adjusted. But to get a better prediction, we've been advised to wait a little bit longer. So we are in a little bit of a holding pattern. Typically by now we'd be looking to adopt our budget, but we have shifted accordingly. And I'm going to just turn it over to Kerry, who's going to give us a little bit of an update about where we are in the budget process.
So we have
There's a note on the bottom. Somebody didn't
Yeah.
see the hand raising thing. If you want to jump to a question first.
Robert Gallagher, I think was the name.
Let's see.
Yes, it was.
Robert Gallagher. Okay.
Hey, yeah, I'm not sure if you have that enabled or not, but I don't see it on the screen here. But I did have a question.
Great.
So there may be some disconnect with parents or guardians as far as what's going on. Would the district consider possibly creating a grade-by-grade online parent or guardian forum? Or at the very least help promote something like that? So the thinking could be that each grade could have a few parents to act as administrators, and then each grade's parent forum could provide, another avenue for discussions or even another tool to reach out for possible support. So one obvious resource would be, Facebook groups, and possibly having one for each grade, and then select some parent administrators.
I think I'd be open to a lot of different things. I think we'd have to flesh some of those things out. I think it's important that the messages that get out are consistent. I would want whatever that group, in terms of being moderated, I'd like that to be, somewhat, I think, to make sure the message is consistent with what the vision of the schools is, to have, some kind of administrative and teacher input on that. But certainly whatever feedback parents might have to help us to get better at what we're doing is something that we would value, So if you want to call me in the office, we could talk a little bit more about what your thoughts were about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think that was the only person who expressed a question, wanted to make a comment or a question. So I think we can move ahead to the budget.
Okay. Kerry, Bill, I think what you'll have to do at this point
Make her the host.
is make her the host.
Okay.
And Kerry, I won't draw on it.
Please don't.
All right. We've got Carrie and
Okay.
Carrie, you are now the host.
Great. Thank you. All right.
You're welcome.
So tonight, like Dr. Massara was saying, we're going to just give a quick update as to where we are with the budget. We're going to kind of go over where we are right now in the current year, and update on the 2020 status. Review a little bit more information we got on state aid for next year, the budget, where we stand for next year, as well as a little bit more information for the budget adoption. So basically, due to the closure of schools right now, we're anticipating that we're going to have a surplus at the end of the school year. Some savings that we're seeing in various categories. Transportation, we're having some savings. Athletics, with sports not running at this point in time, there's no definitive on that right now, with the closure going only till April 29th. The salaries, we are seeing savings in there because we don't have substitutes coming in, and some contract services that we're not receiving right now as a result of not being in classrooms right now. So there's certain areas that we're starting to see some savings, and we're estimating it to be about 400,000. And these are based on the fact that we are closed till the 29th. If we're closed beyond that, obviously we'll start seeing even more savings come through. And we're continuing to look at everything, at what we're paying for, what services we are receiving, in order to make sure we can estimate this out a little bit better. It will be the recommendation at the end of the school year, of this school year, as we close out our books, to take any excess monies we have as a result of this and fund our ERS and TRS reserves, because we do anticipate in the upcoming years, based on the situation in the economy right now, that those rates are going to spike in the next year or two. They're on a 5-year trend. So we want to make sure we can build those reserves to utilize in future years to help stabilize the budget. And I'm not moving. So for state aid, we've been doing a couple webinars with both ASBO, with the State Education Department, NISBA, the school boards. And what we've been told right now is, based on the adoption right now, there's 3 measurement periods. The first is April 1st to 30th. We're in it right now. And then May 1st to June 30th. And then July 1st to December 31st. And what the governor is doing is taking a look to see if revenues are coming in less than the forecast, or actual spending's ahead of the budget. And if that is the case, then the division of budget can implement deductions across the board in the state budget as a whole, which could ultimately affect school districts. So we don't know what that effect could be. Right now, we're waiting to get through this first measurement period, where our budget currently for next year is using numbers that were adopted as of April 1st that was received from the governor. We also did reduce that by the $109,000, which they referenced in there as pandemic adjustment. We are told that we will get it back in the federal stimulus. However, we could also see further adjustments. So right now we're using that $109,000 deduct as our kind of level as to where our state aid could drop to should it go forward in the future. So for right now, we're continuing to plan for the budget for next year. We're having conversations daily. Dr. Massara and I are looking at everything. We're really closely watching the state aid. We're watching the savings we're having this year and what's going on. We are 1.2 million short in revenues to our expenses. So we do need to cut back on expenditures for next year. So some things that we're looking at, and we're continuing to have the conversation, is what outsourced contracts do we have in place that we could negotiate better rates on, or maybe do we actually need all of those services that we have? Equipment purchases, what do we have in the budget for next year? Do we really need all of those purchases? Reducing conference attendance district-wide, not just, that would be from administration all the way down to support staff. Maintenance work that maybe we could budget in the repair reserve and not use the general fund monies for. We're looking at bus routes. Can we consolidate routes that we currently have? We currently run 10 buses per building. We've had a significant decline in enrollment over the past few years. So we're taking a look to see if maybe there's savings there, as well as if there's any potential retirements forthcoming, and what staffing reductions may be needing to have in the future so we can balance this budget out. So as Dr. Massara said before, it's been recommended by New York State Association for Business Officials to not adopt budgets prior to April 30th, kind of get through this first adjustment period that the governor is looking at to see if our state aid is going to be reduced any further than what it was from January till April. So we're not finalizing the expenditures. We know we have that $1.2 million gap right now. We don't anticipate any more state aid. We do expect, if anything, it's going to be a reduction. So we're looking to see what those final numbers potentially could come in at, and we're hoping to have that information April 30th, May 1st, so that we can make final decisions and bring a budget to the board for vote. The vote itself has been postponed. It was supposed to be May 19th, the third Tuesday in May. But at this point, one of the executive orders postponed it till at least June 1st. But there's been no formal date set by the governor. So what happens though is the budget adoption and calendar follows the date of the vote. So we back up from that vote date to determine when the latest is the budget has to be adopted. The property tax report card gets adopted and submitted. When does our hearing take place? When are legal notices occurring? So all of that flows off of when the actual vote takes place. And we are pushing with our organizations to see if we can get that date locked in sooner than later so that we can plan our next school year as best as possible and the boards can make informative decisions. So our next board meeting budget workshop is scheduled for May 6th. We will continue on that schedule. It was supposed to be the board hearing, the budget hearing. However, it may at that point be an adoption. It may not be. We do not know just yet. We are, waiting for the guidance. And as we get that guidance, we'll continue to update the board and the community to move forward. Any questions from the board?
I don't have any. Thank you, Carrie.
I don't either.
Is anybody else?
No.
All right, thank you, Carrie.
Okay, thank you. Sending host back over to you. Where am I?
Are we good?
No, hang on. Okay, you should have it now, Bill.
Thank you. I just gotta let a few people in. Hold on. Okay. A few people got bumped out during the presentation. Let me just let them back in. Where are you? Okay. Mute. Yeah, mute. Marcus is back. Unmute. There we go. Marcus, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, awesome. And I think we're good.
Okay. So that brings us to item 6, motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of April 1st, 2020 and the special meeting of April 8th, 2020. Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. Pat, I think that's you.
Consent agenda items are approved via a single vote unless they are removed from being a consent agenda item prior to the vote.
Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. Number 10, Pat, is that you or me?
That's me.
Okay.
Sorry, that's me. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the third reading and adoption of the following policies as presented to the board at this meeting.
Motion?
Motion.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Yes.
Aye.
Yep.
Motion carries unanimously. So I don't see on here the public question session for anything that's not on the agenda. So we can go ahead and do that. And again, if you want to utilize the hand raising option. And if you can't find that, you can just type in chat, you have a question, and we'll unmute you.
Yeah.
Go, Will.
The hand raise should be right underneath. If you have the participant list up on the right side, you can, there should be a bunch of buttons at the bottom of it. That's one of them should be the blue hand raise.
Yeah. I had to click on participants, but mine came up.
Yeah. Like that.
So.
Mine's raised, but I'm going to turn it down now.
Any questions or comments?
I don't see anything popping up.
Okay. Dates to remember, the next Board of Education meeting will be on May 6th.
Wait.
Found someone.
Nope.
No.
That was me before.
Okay. The next
Okay.
Board of Education meeting will be on May 6th, 2020 at 7:30 PM at the district office. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Stay
you.
safe, stay healthy, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you. Have a good night.